A new high school football season is upon us in the Silver State. She's Nikki, Pica, and I'm Shannon Kelly. Welcome into Champion Chevrolet's Countdown to Kickoff, presented by America First Credit Union. In the next hour, we'll take a deep dive at all of these schools in the Northern 5A and Northern 4A regions as we gear up for the 2025 high school football season. And it just feels like high school football is starting earlier and earlier every year, Nikki.
I know, I literally think it is. I mean, we got scrimmages being played on the 8th of August, you know, first games for week 0 is August 15th. So there's so much going on, and it really does feel like we're rushing into this, you know.
Yeah. Well, the weather will be cooling down soon. League play will begin in September, so a lot of non-league games to kick things off here in August. And speaking of kicking things off, as we mentioned, the Northern 5A and Northern 4A divisions. Yes, that is right. The NIAA met at the end of last season as a new realignment cycle is here for the next 3 years. So when you look at the Northern 5A division, that consists of Bishop Manogue, Reed, Spanish Springs, Douglas, Damonte Ranch, and Galena. And then in the Northern 4A division, you have Carson, Hug, McQueen, North Valleys, Reno, and Worcester. So there will no longer be 3 separate 5A divisions, and then only 4 of those 6 teams from each division will actually make the playoffs. And that's different as well, because typically every team would go to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the board met for hours on hours on hours after last season, and you know, they decided to come to this conclusion of splitting the 5A into the 2 different divisions, the 5A and the 4A, but now there will also be an open bracket which will take the South's top 4 teams and they will play a separate state tournament. So now there's going to be 6 state titles that will be handed out versus last season's 5.
Well, it's very interesting as well when you look how the open division will be just South teams, and that'll be based on the NIAA's HRM system. So that's a composite score with various rankings that the NIAA came up with. And then the next 8 teams from the 5A South, based off of these rankings, will then qualify for the, quote, 5A division playoff spots. And those teams then will face the top 4 Northern 5A teams that are qualifying for playoffs. And respectively in the 4A division, it'll be the top 4 teams in the Northern 4A division against the top 8 teams in the South division. Now, many may ask, hey, why is the South getting more teams in? Well, when you look at the 4A South, 3 leagues and 19 teams, and then you look at the 5A South, 3 leagues and 18 teams, the 5A North and the 4A North, both have 1 league with 6 teams each. So it's a little bit different. There's a lot more teams down in Southern Nevada. That's why they're getting more of those teams in to the playoffs.
And I think something that people might ask is, why doesn't any of the Northern teams get the opportunity to play in the open bracket? All the coaches, they did not want to be a part of it. So that technically will eliminate the threat of Bishop Gorman and having to play them for a state title, which I think is the biggest reason for these teams to, you know, create these splits, keep Bishop Gorman, which is a national powerhouse, and keep it fair, you know, try to give these teams an opportunity to win just with these state titles, and we saw that with Bishop Manogue.
The Miners, back-to-back state champions. We'll get into them in just a little bit here, but here are some of the coaches from our area on the new realignment.
I don't think it's going to work for everybody. That's one that you know, that's obvious. So for us as a program and for the North, I think it's a really good move. I think in the South, too, I think they should be able to look at it and go, this is a really good move for the 5A and the 4A.
You know, have the most amount of competition. It makes you a lot better as a player when you're playing against better people. So I think moving up in the division will be good for us as a team, you know, just to get the opportunity to play against better players and better teams.
I'm really excited. I've always wanted to play the greatest competition we could, and it's going to be a lot of fun playing the guys that I know personally and a lot of the really good, talented people here in Reno.
I mean, you got to figure, I've been around this program a long time. It's not the first time this program has been underestimated, and it won't be the last time. You know, we're kind of an outlier as far as the 5A goes, because we're the only school that's outside of Reno, and so we're used to it. We're used to kind of being singled out, people doubting us, people thinking that we're going to come up short. You know, we just use it as fuel and see what we can do.
So those were some of the coaches in the 5A division, and also want to mention as well that there is still the relegation process. So the team that finishes at the bottom of the 5A standings will be relegated to the 4A division, and the team that finishes at the top of the 4A division will finish and head to the 5A division next season. Here's some of the coaches from the 4A division, their thoughts on realignment as well.
You know, I've had a lot of people ask me kind of about that, and you know what I said to all the other coaches was, you know, someone put our results into an algorithm and determined this is where we were, and algorithms seem to be running the world right now. So we're going to play where we're going to play who we're scheduled, and we're going to go from there. We don't feel like that's where we should be, but it is what it is, and we feel like we'll be in that top division next year.
It's something we don't control, so we're just going to enjoy whoever we have on the schedule. It is going to be tougher in some regards, and I think we're going to embrace that. You know, it's interesting. Every year, going to have different leagues and different opponents, but I think, you know, it's what's best for our city. You know, there's schools that we're rebuilding and doing what we can, and there's schools that have been powerhouses, and I think this is the opportunity for us to fit where we fit.
I like that they kind of funnel, like whoever wins the 4A can slide up and down. It keeps it competitive, but it's an exciting opportunity for us regardless of our league, because we're going to focus on the things that we can control, and you know, we're just going to go out there every week and try to be 1-0.
A lot of mixed reviews, mixed emotions. We'll, of course, see how the first year of that plays out here soon enough. As we mentioned, the Bishop Manogue Miners, the two-time defending 5A Division II state champions, aiming for a three-peat here this season, led by 25th year head coach Ernie Howren. He enters his 9th year at Manogue after spending many seasons over at Reed High School, the most tenured coach in Northern Nevada, as he returns a plethora of talent on his roster this season. Quarterback Brandon Mann is back. You have a pair of offensive linemen that are committed to Division I programs in Max Zero and Cole Cronin. As Coach Howren mentioned, he believes this offensive line is going to be one of the best they've had in recent years. That'll be strong as the Miners have a lot of weapons on their squad again this year.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that some of the top players in Northern Nevada are with this Miners team. I mean, like you mentioned, Cole Cronin, Brandon Mann, Marley Spuler. There's a lot of weapons on both sides of the ball, and to hear that the offensive line is going to be the strongest they've had in a few years is actually pretty interesting to hear, because you feel like they are just so strong as a whole.
Well, and as you mentioned, some of the other playmakers, you have Joey Thomas, the 30. He's one of the state's top prospects, a top wide receiver, a top corner, a couple other wide receivers. You have Damari Stacker, who will be a sophomore this year. He already has 3 Division I offers, and then running back Nathan Shannon and wide receiver Nate Simmons. Here is Coach Howren and some of the players as they look ahead to this season, but not look too far ahead to what could be a possibility later in the year.
That's there, right? We're all human, right? We all know that it could, if we were fortunate enough to play really well all season long, it could be a third one. The reality is, it goes back to what I said, focus on the program norms, things that are important to us. The process of getting there, that's what we've got to focus on. Shouldn't be focusing on that it could be the third one. That should be the farthest thing from your mind.
I think we're a team that's dedicated to the process, and I think that's what we focus on, is just come out and do what we've done every single week and compound on that, and with the process, the outcome will come.
I feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident in my abilities and stuff, and just a lot more faith in the guys, and just being able to lean on them and knowing if I'm underperforming, they'll be able to help me out and get me out of that.
Everybody's just been flying around in this off season and making good hits on each other, and just really setting the tone at practice. So I think it's going to be a really good year defensive-wise.
It's my senior year. I wouldn't want to play with nobody else. It's a special group of guys, so I want to play with this group of guys.
One of the players you just heard from there, Marley Spuler, he'll also be a big leader on defense. Coach Howren saying he's the face of the program. If you could have 22 Marley Spulers, you'd have one heck of a football team.
Yeah.
So he'll be certainly a big captain for the Miners once again this year. now we'll take a look at some of the prospects in the 2026 class. As you mentioned, Nikki, a handful of them on the Bishop Manogue Miners squad. But this is one of the better recruiting classes in Northern Nevada in recent years. You have some players over at Spanish Springs and at DeMonte Ranch, some players who are committed, some who have not committed yet, but offers could be coming their way this season.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that there are, per 24/7 Sports, there are 3-star recruits in the area. And I think the biggest thing is that schools are finally noticing these guys. And, these unrated prospects are, you have like Brady Hummel, who has a handful of Division I offers already. So there's a lot of talent, and when you have talent, it brings more eyes to the area, and more kids will get recruited that way.
Here are some of those top prospects talking about what it means to be on the map in Northern Nevada.
It's stressful, but it's a good stress to have. I'm lucky to have it. It's fun to go through the recruiting process and just talking to all the different coaches. It's been exciting. Just hearing a D1 coach talking big about you is like a dream since I was a kid, so it's been good.
I was talking to a couple coaches in places like Fresno State and San Jose State for a little bit, but as soon as I got the Nevada offer, I kind of let them know that's where I want to be. So I feel like Nevada was my goal since 8th grade.
So far I've had a lot of interest. I've had about a dozen schools come and watch me throw, and then I've been going to a bunch of camps. So it's just finding the right fit for me, and the school's finding me as a right fit. So obviously just trying to have a great senior season and then figure it out from there.
I feel like a little part of me is it's about time. I'm really excited to see all those guys and play with them in the next level. I'm also very excited to see how we do, because a lot of people have said there's not enough local talent to do anything at the college level. So I think we're going to go up there and we're going to show them.
And we have a really good class, and then for the future, obviously, get to play with some of them, hopefully, and then or play against them, continue to play. But we got a really good, skillful class in 26. It's going to be a good year to watch.
I feel like we always had the talent. We just didn't have the people come over here and look at us. So I'm very excited to see that Reno's getting the attention that it deserves.
Coming up next on Countdown to Kickoff, we head over to Sparks as we take a look at two crosstown rivals in Reed and Spanish Springs. Welcome back to Champion Chevrolet's Countdown to Kickoff, presented by America First Credit Union. Taking a look now at the Reed Raiders over on Bering Boulevard. They'll be powered by a strong running back once again this season in Bronwyn Rios, who will be a senior. He's committed to Nevada, as we just heard him in the last segment again there. And once he'll be able to get the ball on the ground for the Raiders, but they'll have a new quarterback this year, but still powered behind Bronwyn Rios. He'll certainly be a force on offense for this Raiders team.
Yeah, so it'll be his 4th year on varsity. He didn't run as much. He was more on defense his freshman year, but his sophomore year, he put up crazy numbers, over 1,000 yards before the end of the season. Last season, we saw a lot of powerful moves, and he was able to find a lot of holes in these defenses and really break away. He's a very impressive player, but also I want to note that they have Chason Rivero, who is also a versatile and impactful playmaker who will, maybe take all the pressure off of Bronwyn Rios. But I think the Raiders are going to have a pretty solid team, and we saw last season that they came really close in some close games to Bishop Manogue, especially for that regional title.
Daxton Dayton is in position to be the Raiders' starting quarterback this season. He appeared in 4 games last year as Bajwa's backup. And then on the defensive side, Ray Mavini, he's been a dominant force in the trenches for the Raiders, led the Northern 5A with 10.5 sacks last season. So he'll certainly be leaned on to anchor the Raiders' defensive line. And he's primed to be as dominant, really, as anyone up front in the trenches in the Northern Nevada area. Here is Coach Garrett Hughes and some of the guys on this season.
I said last year that, we'll go as far as our discipline takes us, and I think that's what happened. Just continue to build on that. Obviously got some big game experience with a lot of guys coming back from that team. So just trying to build on that and look at, we've sat down, talked, and as a team of, what was good, what's things we need to improve on, and really focusing on that and holding each other accountable to that.
Goal every year is to win the state chip. For us, we're just worried about what we're doing. Everyone's working, but I think something that's going to be different with us is our mindset. Like I said, we're never going to give up. We're always going to keep on fighting, and we're going to control what we can control.
And something quickly to note, Daxon Dayton, he appeared in the regional semifinal game against Spanish Springs, and he completed 9 for 14 of his passes for almost 200 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. So he has that experience, even though he didn't get a lot of snaps last season.
Hopefully that will help pay dividends in that playoff game. And then, of course, coming up so close against Bishop Manogue, as the guys mentioned, hungry for more. Heading over now to Spanish Springs, the Cougars led by 7th-year head coach Rob Hummel, who has a very senior heavy-led squad this year in Tyson McNeil and in Brady Hummel as well. And there's a plethora of guys that return who garnered all-region honors, 11 of them last year. But this senior-led group really believes that their camaraderie will help pay dividends as they aim to get back to a regional championship game for the first time since 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was pretty impressive to see that it was mostly the juniors that were taking the brunt of the work last season. And now as seniors, they did get to play in some big games, and they might have fallen short, but obviously as a senior, it's pretty impressive to, kind of see that growth, and we'll see what they can do this season.
Here is Coach Hummel and McNeil on what it's going to take to go deep in the postseason.
You got to play your best football at the end of the season. And, we've been, on the cusp several different times, and, we felt like we were playing pretty well at the end of last season, and, just got outplayed, down the stretch in the Reed game, and it was a heck of a football game, but, you got to make plays when they're there for you. The biggest thing that we know we have to do is take care of ourselves, and we know that if we prepare the right way, execute at a high level like we're capable of, that we're going to be a difficult football team to beat at the end of the season.
We've grinded way more. We're making sure that what happened last year doesn't happen again. And we study a lot more. We hold our teammates accountable, which I felt like we didn't have much of that last year with our seniors. And now that we have that ability to be in their shoes, we're going to make a change for this year.
Spanish Springs will be without its top tackler and Kyler DePape this season. He suffered a season-ending injury. He was second in the state of Nevada with almost 200 tackles last season, so they'll certainly rely on Isaiah Blinkensop to be a leader on the defense. He'll be playing up front in the trenches, but certainly he's a big force for the Cougars. He recently committed to Southern Utah University. Coming up next here on Countdown to Kickoff, we take a look at the 4A division, the Reno Huskies, and a few other teams right after this. Welcome back. Shifting now to the 4A division, the Reno Huskies, led by third-year head coach C.J. Winch, will look to get above 500 for the first time in a couple of years. The Huskies riding a little bit of momentum after finishing the season strong, but still didn't finish over 500. So can they get over the hump? They have a good combo of some juniors and seniors. They return most of their offensive line. They return their quarterback in Braylon Wilson, their top rusher in Jackson Matthews. So can all of that pay dividends as they're playing in the 4A, which is a step below the 5A division?
Yeah, I definitely think them returning their 4 of their 5 offensive linemen from last season it's going to be a big thing, especially with a lethal quarterback like Braylon Wilson. He is a two-way player. I mean, he can rush, and I think we saw it in this game against Douglas. So he's a threat in the run game. He's a threat throwing because he has an arm on him. But I do want to mention that Braylon Wilson in the offseason put on 20 pounds, and he's been working on his feet, and he believes that that's kind of a key piece to his game and, making those right throws and reading the defense a little bit better.
Here is C.J. Winch on how some momentum late last season could help pay dividends early on this year.
That game, we were starting 4 sophomores on the O-line. Same with the next week against Minogue. And just having that confidence and knowing, oh heck, we can win these games. We're still in it. We're never out of anything. We always have a chance. And that was a really good experience. And I still think about the craziness of that game. from all, from the smoke to almost, them canceling it, trying to, and just the ending. It was awesome. And, we carry that, into this year, and we're trying to obviously build off that as well. You're right. We haven't, we've underachieved the past couple of years, which is probably a little reason why we got moved down a division, but we're going to make the most of it. We're going to play whoever's in front of us.
CJ Winch talking about that game. Well, I should have specified that was the crazy playoff win for the Huskies against Douglas, in which Wilson had 4 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing touchdown, and he certainly had grown into himself throughout the season. He's had a lot of schools looking at him, still waiting for that big-time offer to come, but it could be this year if he puts up some strong numbers early on.
Yeah, and Winch had kind of mentioned that he reminds him of Josh Allen a little bit. He might not be as big as him, but the way that he plays in his play style, he likes to play, a little bit rougher. He's not afraid to go in there and get hit a little bit, which Winch doesn't really appreciate because he's like, oh, that's my quarterback. But, Braylon has shown a lot of promise, and I think we could maybe see a little bit more this season.
Here is Coach Winch talking about his signal caller.
Last year was his team. This year, again, it's his team. And he's taking a more vocal role this year. Had a heck of an offseason in the weight room, added about 20 pounds. So not going to look like a quarterback running and throwing the ball out there. So, he's going to be big target. He loves contact as much as it frustrates me. And, we're excited to see what he can do this year.
I've been trying to go to college camps, stuff like that. So my goal is to play college football after this, but for this season I've just been trying to improve on getting stronger, faster, so that part of the run game is there, and then also just speeding up my feet and being able to make some of the throws that last year I wasn't able to. So just watching the film, breaking that down, and then figuring out where I need to make improvements.
Heading up to Robb Drive now, the McQueen Lancers, led by 4th-year head coach Matt Marner, who enters his 19th season overall with the program after spending many years as an assistant, and is an alum with the program, will help to get McQueen back to its winning ways. Less than 4 years ago, McQueen was in the 5A state championship game, and since then has a combined 10 wins. So the Lancers certainly looking to get back into those winning ways, and maybe it's a blessing in disguise now that they are in the 4A division and can get some momentum. It appears they've done a lot of team bonding and off the field activities this summer to help build some more camaraderie, as that's been a big stressor for Coach Marner.
Yeah, I know last season that was a big stressor for him, and they really wanted to kind of hone in on that. We saw, a few really good games from McQueen last season, and they made it a difficult win for Bishop Manogue as well later on in the year, but they are only returning 1 all-region player in Brooks Porter. He's a linebacker, so those other guys having to step up will be a big stressor for them.
Here is Coach Marner and some of the players about how they're trying to get the program back to the top of the standings.
These kids have really big egos, and naturally, right? And we want them to put those aside and realize that we're only going to be as strong as the 45th, 46th guy we have. And so we spent a lot of time this summer trying to build camaraderie and teamwork, communication, that kind of stuff, along with the discipline part, which is always important.
We did things like go on hikes and stuff like that as a team, and it ultimately just brought us together and made all of us, love each other like one, and created a family type environment around here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do and having my brothers next to me on the field for sure.
What does it mean to wear McQueen football on your chest? Because this is a proud program.
Exactly. It's a lot to live up for. The past few years, I wouldn't exactly say we've been living up to our name. It's time to bring it back. It's time to put some respect on our name because, we value this team more than anyone else. And, at the end of the day, there's no one else that can put respect on our name besides this team right here.
Heading over to the capital city now, the Carson High Senators have a new head coach in Stephen Nelms. He takes over for Ryan Beauchard, who had spent the past 3 years leading the Senators. Carson coming off its first winning season since 2015, so maybe they have a little bit of momentum there, but it feels like there's a new breath of fresh air maybe at Carson High School. As a lot of these players said, a lot of stuff is completely different from what they're doing here this year after Coach Ryan Beauchard spent a few seasons there and helped get the program back into its winning ways. He's now actually over at Bishop Manogue helping coach their defensive line, which is great to see him still coaching in the area. But it's a new era of Carson Senators football.
Yeah, and I know some of the players had mentioned that the work ethic this offseason has been really good compared to last season, which it wasn't really that great. Last year's energy was low, and the new coaches are buying in. And something I do want to mention about Steven Nelms is he was with the Rivals in the Douglas Tigers for the last couple seasons under Kyle Mays. So he was the running backs and defensive backs coach as well as the run game coordinator. So he knows about this rivalry pretty well, and he knows of who the Senators are in general.
Here is Coach Nelms and some of the guys about this new era of Carson football.
It's just a really good opportunity for me. It's one of those things that you kind of dream about as a kid when you play. I played in college. I've done a lot of track coaching, football coaching, just kind of an opportunity for me to give back and kind of see what I can do on the football side of things. And I've always had a special place in my heart for Carson, so I'm excited to be back and work with a lot of these kids I had back when I was teaching in PE in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, so it's a very exciting time for me.
This offense is capable of a lot, honestly. Like, Nelms and his mind it's different. It's way different, and everybody is getting along, and we just have a good culture going on right now.
Different. Everything about old Carson is different. We're starting brand new coaching staff, new everything, so everything's brand new, and it's looking great.
All right, coming up next year on Countdown to Kickoff, we'll head over to Carson's rivals, the Douglas High Tigers, who are in the 5A division this year. Welcome back to Countdown to Kickoff. Taking a look now at the Douglas High Tigers as we shift back to the 5A division. So kind of weird to see that Carson and Douglas won't be playing against each other in league play, but they certainly will still play against each other in October, of course.
Yeah, of course they have to have that rivalry game, the longest standing rivalry game in the area, at least. They like to claim that it's one of the best in the area. So there's a lot going on, especially, with this split, the 5A, 4A split. I mean, they were in different divisions last year, but they decided to keep them out. So it'll be kind of a new wave for this Douglas Tigers team as they did lose their starting quarterback as he graduated, Jackson Ovard. Now Joe Michael will be stepping in. He was the backup, and he completed all 6 passes for almost 150 yards with a touchdown over 5 games. He saw limited action in each as, just trying to get him a few reps in. But yeah, there's a lot of key players that are returning to this Douglas team. And starting quarterback Joe Michael, he had mentioned that Mays has really put in the time this season, and that's what's making the players great.
One of those players returning, the senior running back Zachary Jackson, one of the best in the area as well. Here is Coach Mays and some of the guys on how they would hope to learn from the last couple of years as they look to make a push further into the season this year.
One, you got to learn from all your games, especially the losses and the tough losses like we've had the last 2 years. I mean, I would say the last year's loss was really, really tough, but Reno was a good school. I think they were one school that was underestimated kind of coming into the playoffs. But you just take it with the same way the year before against Galena, which was an even more excruciating loss in that regional championship game, where you just kind of try to learn from it. I mean, if you're not trying to get better, you're probably getting worse. And so we never shy away from it. We don't point fingers. We don't make excuses. We look at it and say, what can we do to change the outcome the next time we're in that situation? And we do it, But, I mean, the playoffs are always going to be the playoffs. Everybody's going to give their best. They're going to swing for the fences. And, hopefully we can do a little bit better this year.
Last year we did get overlooked because we did lose a lot of key players, and I feel like we subbed in those key players very well, and I think this year we're going to do a great job of doing the same thing and just having players putting in hard work and just going past the expectation, because we have, like you said, low expectation from a lot of outsiders, but inside of the program I feel like we have a lot of trust within each other, and I feel like we're going to do great this year, and I feel like we're going to definitely exceed those expectations.
Got to give Coach Mays a lot of credit. 16 wins over the last 2 seasons after back-to-back one-win seasons. Taking a look now at the Damani Ranch Mustangs, led by second-year head coach J.J. Milan. It'll be a pretty young squad this year, as there'll even be some freshmen, it would appear, starting on varsity, but they'll have Amari Nash back, one of their best playmakers, back for his senior season. And that'll certainly be big, having an experienced leader on offense.
Yeah, and they gained quarterback Christian Dale, who he was at Spanish Springs last season, moved, is now at Damani, now playing. So after losing their quarterback from last season, they'll have an arm in deal. So that'll be a good positive side, despite, that they do have a younger squad that is, kind of taking over from last year, and not to mention the couple of players that, left the program to, go to schools in California or down to Vegas. So we'll get into that in a minute, I'm sure. But there's a lot of positive things coming out of J.J. Milan's first season as head coach.
So a couple of players, as you mentioned, heading over to California and down to Las Vegas.
Definitely, yeah. Zachary Scott, he'll be heading down to Vegas, and then Chuba and B-Ray Lange, those are brothers, and they're going to be heading over to Orange Lutheran in SoCal. And, those 3 players were all league players up here last season. So kind of a bit of a loss for Damani, but I think, we'll see what Milan can do and be able to kind of overcome that.
Speaking of another team that'll be breaking in a new quarterback, that is Galena, led by 7th-year head coach Aaron Cook. They had Colson Kermode, Ben Enzi, Matt Rittenhouse, just a few of their big weapons last year. They'll be breaking in a big new senior class, 20 guys, so they'll have some big shoes to fill. Here is Damani Ranch and Galena's coaches and players sounding off on the upcoming season.
I love being competitive and getting in the highest competition that we could get, especially in Northern Nevada. We're going to have to compete. We're going to be young this year. We have a total of 16 juniors and seniors total. So we're probably going to have more than 15 sophomores, and we're going to be starting probably 3 freshmen. So I'll let it out there right now. So we will be young, but at the same time, we'll be able to compete. We don't have a ton of kids on our team, and we're not maybe as deep as some other teams, but we got great coaching. We've been putting together a great strategy for everything, and we got a lot of good players over there that can really make plays on the field. So I'm excited to get to play a lot of these higher echelon teams and being up in the 5A. It's going to be a lot of fun this year.
State championship is a whole different experience, unlike anything I've ever done. And translating that to an everyday game is something we need to do if we want to have a good season. So I think everyone that got to experience that last year is going to take that with them and show the newer guys that that's what the level we need to be playing at in order to have a great season.
The foundation's been set the last couple of years, and obviously we had a lot of success, and guys came back ready to work in January. We've been working since then, and nothing's changed as far as the formula and the execution of the formula, and just competing all summer, really.
So the Grizzlies looking to get back to a state title game after playing in the championship the last 2 seasons in the 5A Division 3 ranks, now playing in the just Northern 5A division up here in Northern Nevada. Speaking of the rivalry game, the battle for the Cross Saw, which was owned by Damani Ranch. Well, Galena won the game last year, not only beat the Mustangs once, but twice as well, if many may remember, in that really close regional championship game on a chilly, frigid night in Northern Nevada. Coming up next year on Countdown to Kickoff, we shift back to the 4A ranks as we take a look at the remaining schools in the Northern 4A League. Welcome back to Champion Chevrolet's Countdown to Kickoff, presented by America First Credit Union. She's Nikki Pica. I'm Shannon Kelly. As we take a look at the remaining 3 teams left in the Northern 4A ranks, let's start off with Wooster. It's a new era of Colts football after Bo Sellers was at the helm of the program for 9 seasons. Last season, going just 2-8 overall after back-to-back seasons before that at the 500 mark, made it to playoffs and was able to get a playoff win. And now it's a new era of Wooster football as David Tejan steps in. He was an assistant, so spent a lot of time with Coach Sellers and was the JV coach as well. And he'll look to get the Colts back to its winning ways.
Yeah, and I think that's a big emphasis that all these players kind of mentioned, is that there's not too much of a difference between Tejan's way he wants to lead the team and Sellers, because they were working so closely together. But Tejan said that he is adding his own twist to this team and, you know, kind of what he wants to prove and rebuild this program.
We caught up with Coach Tejan and some of the guys, and here's what they had to say.
I was very excited for the transition from JV to varsity. Now as the varsity head coach, it has been crazy. I know I've made a lot of mistakes, but I know that I'm fixing those mistakes as I go along, because if you're a first-year head coach and you say you didn't make a mistake, you're a liar. Being at Worcester High School, anytime you follow a Sellers, there's going to be pressure. There's going to be pressure to perform, pressure to, you know, get things going on the right direction. Luckily, I've been under Bo for long enough. The pressure it's there, but it's a lot less, because I've pretty much tried to keep everything as close to what he does as possible. Obviously, I've made it mine, but I've wanted to keep everything close to what he was doing.
Smooth transition. I think Coach T has done a great job of building on what Coach Sellers has built, along with adding on his own little twist, and I think he's doing a great job.
And I do want to mention that even though that there might have felt like there's a little bit of pressure for Tejan, I was his third interview, and he did a great job. He's like, I've only done 3 interviews so far, and I was like, well, you kill it. Like, you did awesome. Like, I wouldn't even be able to tell that you've been doing this for years. So.
Shout out Coach Tejan. There we go. There we go. All right, heading up at 395 now to North Valley's, led by head coach Brad Rose, who's been a longtime head coach in the area. His 4th year with the Panthers. The trajectory continues upward at North Valley's, and they return their starting quarterback this season in Michael Almond.
Yeah, they return Michael Allman, but they also lost 36 players in their senior class. So I think it's going to be a big learning curve for a lot of these players, and it'll be interesting to see how Allman is able to command that offense and be able to kind of turn it into the defense. I know that they mentioned that this team feels a little bit more together this year, and you know, Allman is leading that offense, completed 65% of his passes last season. So we'll see if he can keep that up.
Here is Coach Rose and some of the Panthers on building that upward trajectory.
These kids, like, they've bought into our beliefs and systems the last 3 years. And so I think it's just that piece of just persisting through it, believing in it, pushing through it. And I think that's going to be our story. You're going to see a continuation of the things we've been trying to build the last few years.
We've got a great group of guys this year. They're all hungry, ready to go. We did lose quite a bit of guys last year, but left a great impression on everyone else, so we're going to go out there and do our best.
I feel like we're going to look pretty good this year, actually. It's my team that I've been growing up with my whole life, and when I got put up to varsity as a sophomore, the JV team, my team, like I've been playing up with, they went 7-2, winning a lot of games, so I think we're going to have a pretty fun season.
Schematically, what can we anticipate?
A lot of passes. We're passing the ball this year. And I'm really looking forward to that, because it's what I wanted to do my whole life. It's finally my time senior year.
Also, I want to mention Michael Allman's flow. I mean, he's got the locks this year.
He does.
We'll see if he can use that lettuce to his advantage.
Hopefully you can see under his helmet, right?
I know, right?
Also want to give a big shout out to Coach Rose. I saw him at a 7-on-7 camp in his hat and his sunglasses. I didn't even recognize it was him. So big congrats to Coach Rose for a great offseason it's been for him.
Absolutely.
So awesome stuff for Coach Rose. Final team now we want to take a look at the Hug Hawks, led by second-year head coach Charles Berger, who inherited a squad that was all over the place after being hired just a couple weeks before the 2024 season started. Now he's had a full off season with this group. He feels like he's further along. Now it's a matter of, hey, can these guys continue to buy in, and can our core pieces play really well for us this season, and maybe we can squeeze out some victories.
Yeah, Charles Berger had mentioned that, you know, last season it was just about them standing up. You know, he did come in a couple weeks before the season started after Anthony Davis stepped down during the offseason. So it was a pretty turbulent season for this Hawks team, and, you know, it can only really kind of get better. They want to walk now. They stood up last year. They want to walk this year. And with a quarterback now in their ranks and Elijah Herbert, there's a good chance that they could, you know, maybe get a few steps in.
Here is Coach Berger on the upcoming year.
Full summer sessions have been good. Attendance at the UNR camp was up from what we actually had last year. So our numbers are getting up. We just need more consistency. But as far as the baby steps that we started with last year we stood up. So this year we're actually trying to walk a little forward.
I want to play for this program because it's showing that we're strong enough to go up in the ranks, even though we're in the lowest right now, technically. This school is a really good school as well. All the teachers are very fun, they're really good, and I just love this school. Chemistry is a lot better than last year, since last year was a lot more just smushed in together, like work with each other no matter what. We can actually work with each other, trust that we have each other.
So the Hawks aiming for the program's first victory since September of 2023 when they took down Sparks, and Hug will actually open up the season against the Railroaders. We'll wrap things up here on our Countdown to Kickoff show next as we take a look at the Friday night rival schedule with more live games coming your way on Nevada Sports Net. Wrapping things up on Champion Chevrolet's Countdown to Kickoff, presented by America First Credit Union. We have high school football coming your way on Nevada Sports Net once again this season with 10 football games and a pair of volleyball games. And our first game will be September 5th when Reed hosts McQueen, so we'll be out on the gridiron for that game, and there's a handful of good ones to keep your eye out for, especially the Douglas versus Carson game on October 10th, the Bishop Minogue and Spanish Springs football game late in the season, right before the playoffs. That should be a great one as well. Are there any others that catch your eyes, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the playoff games are always fun, and being able to watch it on TV and for these kids, it's a really cool opportunity too. So we'll get to see some really good games going on.
There will be a big shout out to Don Marchand and his crew once again this season. It should be a fun year on the sidelines. Well, before we go, we have our preseason poll. 6 of us voted here in the NSN office to take a look at that to see for the 5A division and in the 4A ranks. We'll have that pop up here on the monitor behind us. And it was pretty evenly matched, it felt like. A lot of teams had the most first place votes between Bishop Minogue. Spanish Springs had a first place vote. McQueen had a first place vote in the 4A division, and so did Reno. They had the most votes, but as you take a look, you have the Hug Hawks, the Worcester Colts, North Valley's Panthers, Carson Senators, McQueen Lancers, and then the Reno Huskies as the top dogs in the 4A ranks.
Yeah, and in the 5A, Bishop Minogue with 35 points, 5 first place votes, as Shannon mentioned. Then you have Spanish Springs in second, Reed following in third, and then Douglas, DeMonte Ranch, and Galena. So there you go.
There we go. A nice little graphic there from our editor, Zach Briggs, putting that together for us there. And when you take a look at some of the teams here this season, Nikki, who do you have your eyes on this year?
Yeah, I think in the 5A, you know, it really could have gone either way between Reed and Spanish Springs, but I think what really caught my eye was the fact that they have 11, not just like 5 or 6, they have 11 all-league players that are returning. Most of them were juniors last season, and they really did a solid job. I think, you know, they might have one of the best offensive duos between their quarterback Tyson McNeil and Brady Hummel, as well as a bunch of other offensive weapons. You know, it's going to make it a little bit easier for Brady to get open in some points with Tyson running. And I think for the 4A, I think Reno is going to make some noise, especially with a quarterback like Braylon Wilson, who they did play some good competition in the 5A2 division last year.
Well, you look at the Reno Huskies as well. They're still playing some of the top dogs when they scrimmage Reed, so that'll be a good test early on in a preseason scrimmage, but then non-league games against Spanish Springs and Bishop Minogue, so still playing some of the top competition in the 5A league. Well, it should be another fun season for us here on Nevada Sports Net, and of course on News 4, as we'll have high school football coming your way every Friday night, and we will be back on the sidelines. It should be a fun one, but also want to mention that Nevada Day, since it falls at the end of October, that's actually the final week of the regular season and then jumps right into playoffs. And it'll be a little bit different this year, since we mentioned there's only going to be 4 teams from each division that are heading to playoffs. Normally, the playoffs will start on that Nevada Day, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, and I think, for the state of Nevada, it gives them the opportunity to actually go and celebrate it. There's weird opportunities for, maybe people want to go celebrate it. But yeah, with the 4 teams playing in the playoffs, it's a little bit more cutthroat this season. Just because you play in the division doesn't mean you get to play in playoffs. So, the top 4 teams, it's going to be creating a little bit more competition. So it'll be good.
It will be good. A little bit something more maybe to play for, perhaps,
Absolutely.
in league play this season. We'll see you on the sidelines this year. She's Nikki Pica. I'm Shannon Kelly. Thanks so much for tuning in to our hour-long countdown to kickoff special as we gear up for the 2025 high school football season. We'll see you next time.